Southwest Florida. It's August 10th. You're watching Leap Is Live on this Sunday morning. Everybody who tunes in to us on Sunday morning, right now is the time to set your DVR. Right now, you've been saying, I got to set my DVR. If you don't know how to set your DVR or your TiVo or whatever you got, get with your children. They know how to set it. You can set it right now when we go to the commercial break, and you'll get all the Leap Hits Live for the rest of your life. They can do it auto-record. And because you're going to certainly want to get this show on tape, got a chance to talk to an American treasure this show, Bob Beamon. Yes, that Bob Beamon is back. He's the Olympic gold medalist, world record holder in the long jump in Mexico City. Going to go the entire show with him in the studio, and then we'll go out to the NAACP banquet in Collier County and take a look at my interview with Harold Weeks. All that's happening on Leap Is Live. And before we go, yes, take a look. Olympic medalist, my man Jay and Rick are knocking it out. He gave me this tie. Bob Beamon gave me this tie, the most treasured gift I could ever get from the great Bob Beamon. He lives in Southwest Florida. This is Leap Is Live, and one more time, bam, my Olympic tie given to me by the great Bob Beamon, world record holder in the long jump in the Olympics. Still, no one has eclipsed Bob Beamon. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good to get you here, man.
All right now.
First of all, before we get to it, what's this ring I'm looking at?
Well, this is a ring. It's for some of the great athletes that have come through UTEP.
Okay.
University of Texas at El Paso, and this was given to me a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, looks nice, man. See, I noticed everything. Bob, we want to establish you first. You are actually living here in Southwest Florida. How did you end up in Southwest Florida?
Well, I was asked by Al Order's wife, and Al Order was my teammate in Mexico City in 1968, who passed away, and she asked me to come in and run this wonderful museum called Art of Olympians.
Gotcha.
And
downtown Fort Myers. Mm-hmm.
Yes, right here in Fort Myers, and it was a wonderful experience by being the CEO for a couple of years running that program.
And since then, you just kind of hang around. You still golfing the whole bit, right?
Well, actually, what I enjoy doing is hosting golf tournaments, putting on golf tournaments, and I've had 14 or 15, 14 of the of some of probably the celebrity great golf tournaments in the country, and I've had everybody from Muhammad Ali,
there you go,
all the way to Julius Erving, all of the great legends in sports.
Okay, let's take a look at Bob Beamon, Rick, Mexico City world record holder. Let's go back in history for all the young jits who do not know who Bob Beamon is. Let's go.
A record was set in Mexico City in 1968 that would endure for over 2 decades, one which those who witnessed it thought would not be broken until the next millennium. It became known as the leap of the century. Bob Beamon's first attempt in the long jump was beyond belief. In the space of 6 short seconds, Beamon had leapt so far that even for a field including defending champion Lynn Davis and American world record holder Ralph Boston, the contest was effectively over. The jump was beyond the limit of the measuring equipment.
I thought, well, why is it taking so long? It's been 5, it's been 10 minutes. Then, about 15 minutes into the waiting period, they called in to bring in a manual tape. So they measured from the man. I said, well, I probably jumped maybe 27:10. Maybe I broke the record maybe by a couple of inches. And then my teammate, Ralph Boston, mentioned to me, he said, look, the jump is well over.
When the mark of 8 meters 90 appeared on the scoreboard, Beamon, used to non-metric measurement, still didn't know exactly how far he'd jumped. When he was told that his leap had taken him 29 feet, 2.5 inches, 21 3/4 inches further than had ever been jumped before, Beamon could not believe it himself. When he finally came to realize the enormity of his achievement, his legs gave way under him. He suffered what was later described as a cataplectic seizure, brought on by the sheer emotional energy in his body. Beamon's gold was a foregone conclusion. No one even came near to the previous world record. For many, Beamon's astonishing jump will always be the greatest of all the records achieved in the Olympic Games.
Oh, man, I'm all smiles. I got the coolest job in the world, man. I got the coolest job in the world. When I was a little kid, and I used to see this kind of footage on Bob Beamon on the Wide World of Sports. And I never thought one day I'd be sitting here with Bob Beamon, man. Leap Is Live has just totally changed my life, Bob. Speaking of changing my life, Bob, when you look back at that, what does that do? What do you think about? I know you've seen those types of things a million times, but what does it do for you?
Well, I always reference myself back to when I first had the dream, and that was back in 1964, where I watched the Olympic Games. I watched Bob Hayes win his gold medal in the 100 meters in Tokyo, and I thought one day I should be there. I think I have a little talent,
there you
and
go.
so therefore let me start working on it now. And so I entered into high school, did extraordinarily well. But I always thought about the very beginning, where I came from, the dream. How did the dream come about, and how do I motivate myself to be the very best that I can be? And as I went on, I learned to understand what I needed to do to make myself or perfect myself in my particular event.
Now, when you jumped that far, back then, did people think steroids back then, or that wasn't anything that was thought about, particularly on American athletes, as it would be now? Somebody jumps like that, they go like, hey, he's on steroids.
Well, back then it was pretty clear of steroids.
Right.
I mean, there was nothing talked about of steroids.
Right.
What was talked about was high altitude. How would it affect the athletes, whether you're running the 100 meters or whether you're running the marathon? And of course, the marathon really suffered with the high altitude. For me, it never affected me until 10, 15 years later.
Right, okay. Now, you look pretty good right now. I mean, you're in good shape. You're about, people who don't know, you look like you may be about 6'4".
I'm 6'3", 6'3 and a half.
Right. Is that a big advantage for a long jumper to be, relatively tall?
Well, we had a couple of athletes that were less than 6 feet that have won gold medals. So I think it's all about training. I think it's all about technique. For me, my size was more or less a gifted for me. It was that my horizontal and my vertical perfectly went together on that day.
Okay, so it was just that once in a lifetime when everything comes together.
Right. Well, I was doing extraordinarily well, so during the year, but that particular day, everything just changed. So that was
right. I'm gonna get another question in before we go to a break. But that morning when you woke up and you going that day you did that, and after you did that, your life changed for the rest of your life in a sense. What was that you can remember early on how your life changed? You became like so much more recognized, than you were on a national scale.
Yes, I was invited, and of course, things like sponsors always wanted me to be a part of the Olympic sports programs and so forth. However, my attitude was that I remained the same person that I was back when I was growing up in the projects in New York City. And so I've been able to keep just a peaceful calmness in myself throughout the 48 years of competing.
Right, and you're same easygoing guy. When we come back, I want to get a feel for how you dealt with peer pressure back then when you were setting your goals, because when you're setting goals like that, I can relate to that. There are going to be certain people who are going to be negative toward what you're trying to accomplish, so especially in the housing projects. Whew. We'll be right back. Bob Beamon. And we're back with Bob Beamon. Let's just get right to it. Yes, that Bob Beamon. Bob, housing projects, trying to find equipment, out there jogging, people saying you're crazy, you're never going to make anything of yourself. I know how peer pressure is, different people. How did you get past that, and who was that person in that time frame that really encouraged you?
Well, I grew up in the housing projects in New York, and very much a problem in the system. Probably would become incarcerated. However, it was because of my grandmother that that said, "Please don't take my grandson and incarcerate him. I will take him under my wing." And
wow!
And so I give a lot of blessings and thoughts to my grandmother, because she's the one that believed that there was something more special to come for me.
Call her name, man.
Name was Minnie Beamon.
Okay, we want to have that on tape. Now, when you go and speak or when you interact with the younger generation, do they have any concept of who Bob Beamon is?
Well, some do. If it's in the sports world, some do. However, after showing a film, they do reflect and they say, "Wow, that's you." And they say, "Well, how did you do that? Mm-hmm. How did you jump to it?" Well, it comes with hard work. Mm-hmm. You've got to be motivated. You got to be dedicated. You got to have all those characteristics in order to be successful. And that spills over in your personal life too. Not only sports, but it also, we talk about a personal life, what it did for me, when I felt like things were not going my way in my business life. I said, I've got to continue to be motivated. I got to think and feel very important about what I'm doing. You can be number one in whatever you want to do.
That's right. Now, how did your education, again, a metaphor, how did your education that you got in college and along the way helped you even to this day, the value of education?
Well, education, of course, is probably one of my great strengths, is that I did finish high school and I finished college. Prior to that, I couldn't read or write when I was 14 and 15 years old, so I was at a disadvantage. But as we went on, I found that there was a lot of deficiencies that I had to make up. However, I did.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I got to get you back to go deeper into that. And is it fair to say that because of the circumstances that you were in or the way that you applied yourself up until that point was the reason you couldn't read or write at 14?
Well, again, my behavior was just
essentially you were
really not socially acceptable.
You were a menace to society.
I was out there in the street, and so it was a great change in life.
Great, that's amazing. The Olympia Track Club, I think it is, they're going to be coming in here in the future, Bob. I know we talked about that, just letting you know that. You're working with them now, and you've seen some, that's in Dunbar area, but it covers all of Lee County. They got some outstanding prospects there. I want you to talk about what you see here locally and specifically at Olympia Track Club that encourages you.
Well,
the youths.
I think in every city and town in the United States, you will always find someone that has some special talent, whether it's track and field or basketball. Now, specifically, working with Medette Smith, she has produced some fine athletes, a couple particularly who are at the Nationals competing as we speak, who I think are on the line of possibly being Olympic champions in the next 6 or 7 years.
So we need to keep an eye out on that.
We need to keep
That's
an
right
eye
here in
out.
Fort Myers.
Yes.
Bob, final question. When you say what you're saying about possible Olympic champions, what are some key things you can look at in terms of their skill set and their character that tells you that, hey, they stay on this trajectory and based on how they compare to their peers, they can make it?
Well, what we have to keep in mind that, you know, the kids that she has are pretty young, you know, anywhere from 5 years old to about 17 or 18. The gentleman that I've talked to, the one in particular, he is on his way to something phenomenal. He is, to me, I would compare him to Usain Bolt as a youngster at 13 and 14 years old. He ran a 46.7,
okay,
400 meters. That's
adult. You told me that's adult speed.
Oh, I mean, any college right now would take him, and he would win a lot of championships.
Oh, man. We're going to get him in here in the future, and some other ones as well, and including the long jumper, the guy that looked young. We're not going to try to come up with their names right now on the spot. Well, Bob, I got to get to some other stuff. It's been a pleasure having you here. We're looking forward to getting you back in the future, okay?
Thank you, and I look forward to it, Lee. Let's toast to this.
All right, man. Let's toast to it. It's been an honor for me, man. And thanks for this time. Saying goes on this particular show, for those who say it can't be done, they're usually interrupted by those like my childhood hero, Bob Beamon, who are doing it. We'll be right back. Go out to the Collier County NAACP banquet, Mardi Gras style.